Love in every moment. Chapter 1: A Fateful Encounter. Michael Jeremy wandered through the quiet bookstore, running his fingers over the spines of well-worn books. He reached for a poetry collection just as another hand touched it. "Oh, I'm sorry," Lillian said, smiling shyly. Michael chuckled. "No need to apologize. You have good taste in books." "You too," she replied, tilting her head. "Pablo Neruda. The best," he said, handing her the book. "But only if you promise to let me borrow it sometime." Lillian smirked. "Deal." And just like that, their love story began. Chapter 2: Love in Full Bloom. Under the city lights, Michael and Lillian sat on a bench, hands intertwined. "What's your dream?" Michael asked, watching the river shimmer under the moonlight. Lillian sighed happily. "To have my own art studio, filled with paintings that tell stories." "And you?" "To write a book," Michael said. "A love story, ours." Lillian laughed. "That's a little cheesy." He grinned. "But you love it." She squeezed his hand. "I do." Michael's mother, Faith, welcomed Lillian with open arms. "You make my son so happy," she said one evening as they had dinner. Lillian blushed. "He makes me happy too." Meanwhile, Lillian's father, Henry, sat Michael down one day. "Do you love my daughter?" he asked. "With everything I have," Michael answered firmly. Henry studied him for a moment before nodding. "Then take care of her." Chapter 3: The Storm Arrives. Michael sat on the doctor's examination table, his hands clammy. "I'm afraid it's cancer," the doctor said softly. Lillian gripped his hand. "We'll fight this," she whispered. Michael forced a smile. "Let's make every moment count." And they did. They danced in the rain, traveled to places they'd always dreamed of, and spent nights whispering "I love you" over and over again. One night, as they lay under the stars, Michael turned to her. "Promise me something." "Anything. Keep living. Even if I'm not here." Tears filled Lillian's eyes. "Michael, don't talk like that." He touched her face gently. "Promise me." She nodded. "I promise." Chapter 4: Goodbye, my love. Michael's breathing was shallow. Faith held his hand while Lillian sat beside him, her heart breaking. "I love you," Lillian whispered. Michael's lips curled into a weak smile. "Live for both of us." Then, he was gone. Lillian buried her face in his chest, sobbing, while Faith stroked her son's hair one last time. Chapter 5: A Love That Never Fades. Months later, Lillian stood in front of a blank canvas. Taking a deep breath, she began to paint Michael, his smile, his warmth, his love. Henry placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "He'd be proud of you." Lillian smiled through her tears. "I hope so." As the wind whispered through the open window, she swore she could hear his voice. "I love you." She closed her eyes and whispered back. "I love you too."